What's up, everybody? So here is my artisan no knead bread, and I believe this is called a Pullman pan, industrial baking bread loaf pan. And just got this bread loaf pan today. So far so good. The reason why I like this pan is because it makes, if you're like me, like we like to eat a lot of sandwiches and stuff like that, so you run out of bread quick, and by the time one loaf is done, it's like you just want to have something that's going to be long enough to make enough bread to last you at least 3 days. So this recipe right here, I'll go over it really quick. I really should have done like a step by step, but instead I'm gonna make it real quick and simple. I don't like to make things difficult. I don't like I like things to be easy, and so I'm just gonna share this recipe with you really quick so you can kind of get an idea of what you want to use to make this bread right here. So I like to use the King Arthur flour, the bread flour, and the difference between bread flour and white flour is the bread flour actually has some barley flour in it, and the difference between that and white, the barley gives the bread more of a chew to it. It gives it a better, like, chewy bread texture. It gives the bread a little bit more body, and so that's what I like about the bread flour. So what I like to do is I do a modified version of the no knead bread recipe that you have to wait overnight. This I didn't have to wait overnight. How I do it is going to be 3.5 cups of flour, bread flour. You can use white flour if you want, but I like to use bread flour. 3.5 cups of that. Actually, I'm sorry, 3 cups of bread flour, and to give it a little fullness, I'll put a 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour. And then you want to proof your yeast. So basically what I'll do is I'll get a teaspoon of sugar. I will warm my a part of the 14 ounces. You're gonna need 14 ounces for one loaf. Now this is actually 2 loaves. This turned out to be 2 loaves, and my bread pans just arrived this morning, so I ended up putting 2 loaves in this one pan. So this is a 2 loaf, or a 2-pound bread pan actually. But if you're going to be doing a 1-pound bread pan, you for a regular short loaf pan, the recipe is going to be 3.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of yeast. Now what I do is you're going to add a total of 14 ounces of water to your recipe, but I like to take a portion of that, so it doesn't need to be a lot of water. So I'll take maybe like 2 ounces of that water. I'll put my teaspoon of yeast, and I'll put a teaspoon of sugar. And what the sugar does is it feeds the yeast, and it helps you to proof your yeast a lot faster. So what you want to do is you want warm water that is going to be just below scalding. So you don't want hot water. You want kind of like a little bit above lukewarm, a little bit above, like a little bit, like it has to be below scalding. I kind of do it by feel. So you got about 2 ounces of your water with 1 teaspoon of yeast, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Let that proof. You want to let it proof for about a half an hour, and what you're going to see is that your yeast water is going to start to develop bubbles on the top. It's going to rise up. Once it really starts to bubble up and rise up, after about a half an hour, you're going to add it to your 3.5 cups of flour. You've already used about 2 ounces of water to proof your yeast. So now all you're going to need is going to be 12 ounces of just regular room temperature water. Mix it up. The last recipe that I did called for salt. I don't use salt in this recipe because I'm trying to proof my yeast a lot faster. I'm trying to get the bread to rise a lot faster, and what salt does is it retards the yeast growth. So I'm actually trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to proof this as fast as I can, so I can get some loaves going, so I can have some sandwiches. So no salt. And I will put 1 tablespoon of, you can use extra virgin olive oil or regular vegetable oil, that's fine. And you're going to mix it up in your bowl, and you're gonna let that sit for about, you're gonna let it rise for about 1 hour. And cover your bowl up with a a towel or something like that, or saran wrap, and let that sit for about 1 hour. And after about an hour, you're gonna come back. Your dough should have risen after about 1 hour. Then you're gonna take that up. You're going to grease your pans. In this case, I grease this pan right here. You're gonna put your punch your dough down, throw it in the pan, let that rise for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Once it rises, you want to have your the heat in your oven already preheated to 425 degrees, and then you're going to, I would say, preheat it for about 15 minutes. Then you're going to toss it in the oven for about, I'd say, about 30 to 35 minutes. That's how long it's going to take to bake this loaf. And that's it. It's a really quick and easy recipe. You don't have to, it's still a no-knead recipe. This is the modified version right here. I like it, because it's quick, it's easy, and this recipe turns out really good because I like my bread a little bit on the sweet side. So, if you found this helpful, if you have any questions, comment down below, like this video, share and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Take care.